The Sikha we will be learning is in the second Sikha to Parshas Vaeschanan. But on the heading Parshas Vaeschanan, there's a star, and it says in the Ha'ara that this is also connected, even though the Sikha doesn't talk about it, but it's connected to the fact that Shabbos Vaeschanan, at least the year that the Sikha was printed, it was Tovshim Memhei, was the Shabbos before Chof Ov. Chof Ov is the Yortzeit, the Yom HaYelula of the Rebbe's father, and we refers to him here that this is the Hilula of Harav Agon, Rav Chosid, the Makubal, Rav Polim El Teira Mitzvahs, Rabbi Meishim Me'oven, the Hurler with the Yitzchak Zal Shneir son, who was the father of the Rebbe, and he went to Golis because of his work in spreading and strengthening Yiddishkeit, and he passed away, Taki, in the city of Golis, in Almaty, in Kazakhstan. And the connection to the Sikha is because the Sikha talks about Ore Miklad. The Sikha talks about somebody who has to run away to Golas, to go to exile, because actually that talks about the person who killed somebody, b'shegeg, killed somebody by mistake, unintentionally has to go to Golas. So it talks about Golas. So the Rebbe in this order says that from this Shabbos of Vaeschanan, that year is the Shabbos before Chofov, when the Rebbe's father was also in Golas, and we know that it says in Zohar from Shabbos. My name is Baruch and Kuli Yamin. All the days of the week get their bracha from Shabbos. So this is the Shabbos before that. So there's some connection between this teichen of the Sikha, which is B'negei Golas, to the union of Chofov. Now we'll start the Sikha. From the Pasuk of Parsha saying of Anos Elachas Ben Orim Ha'el V'chai, in the Pasuk of this week's Parsha, where it talks about somebody who has to run away to Golas, someone who killed somebody b'shegeg and has to run away to Ore Miklot. So the Pasuk says he shall run away to one of the cities because there were 6 Ore Miklot, 6 cities of refuge that a B'tseach that killed somebody b'shegeg could run to protect himself. So it says he shall run away v'chai and he shall live. Now the simple pshat means that if he doesn't go there, he will not live because the Geil Adam, the relative of the one that got killed, is able to kill him. But if he runs to one of these cities, he will live. But the Chachomim learn out from the Gemara learns out from here. As Talmud Shegola Megala Rabbi Imei. If a Talmud, a student, has to go to Golas, has to go to exile to Ore Miklot, his Rebbe, his teacher, has to go to Golas with him to continue teaching him Torah. Shenemar, because the Pasuk says V'chai, that he should go to Golas and he shall live. That means Ovid le midet et havel lechayusa. Do things to him that will make him live. And therefore, the Rebbe who teaches him Torah has to go to teach him Torah. And that makes him live. As the Rambam explains, the Rambam in Sefer Hayad bringt up dem din. The Rambam in his Yad and the Sefer Hayad, which is the Sefer of Halachas, the Rambam, brings this din and he says like this, Talmud Shegola Ore Miklot Megalna Rabbi Imei, a Talmud that goes to exile to Ore Miklot, his Rebbe goes to Golos with him, Shenemer, as it says, V'chai, Mamish, like the Gemara says, it says he shall live, and that Rambam's Taichasuis, that means Asay Le Kadei Sheichye. Make things, behave with him, do things to him that he shall live. And there's the Rabbi Mesim, and the Rambam adds, V'chaye Bale Chochme Movaksheo, and the life of people who are smart, people who are Chachomim, people who have Chochme, which means real Chochme is Torah. And those that are searching and looking for Torah, belay Talmud Torah, if they don't learn Torah, Kimisa Chashuvin, it's like they're dead. So when the Pasuk says make him live, it means if he's a Baal Chochme, he's a Baal Torah, you have to teach him Torah. In Ore Mikla, you have to teach him Torah. Because if not, he's like dead. If he doesn't learn Torah, it's like that. Because by Baal Chochme, without learning Torah, it's like they're dead. And B'meila, you have to send the Rebbe there. What is the Rabbi adding with these last few words? That the life of a Baal Chochmeh without Torah is like dead? So the Rambam means to add something very simple. You could say, by doing this, the Rambam is answering a simple question in this din. Even though the din is that you have to make sure that this person who goes to Ore Miklot, the one that killed somebody b'shegeg, has to have all his needs. So when he goes to Ore Miklot, you have to supply all his needs. The Gemara says, that when you make Ore Miklot, it has to be in a place of water, the place of streets. In other words, he should have all his necessities there. Is aber nicht moving. We still don't understand. Was war Nord hat es at Mesolaston von Cheshmen von der zweiten Niden. What sense does it make that you have to provide him with everything that he needs on the cheshbon of somebody else? Bifrat Rabbi, especially on the cheshbon of his Rebbe. It's on the count of his Rebbe. So Shikha Rabbi in Golis, get to learn a Torah with the Talmud. That the Rebbe, you have to send his Rebbe, his teacher, to Golis. Today he should teach him Torah, the Talmud. So you have to provide him. But you can't, because of that, make someone else suffer. So here you're making the Rebbe suffer and go to Golis because you have to provide him. That's hard to understand. Especially when we're talking about a Talmud who did this idea of killing somebody. He killed somebody by mistake. That itself shows, the fact that happens shows that he's not the way he's supposed to be. But the fathers are chayiv golas. That's the reason why he has to go to golas. And as the Gemara says, he'll have a kapora, so he should have a kapora, should be forgiven. That means he needs to be forgiven. There's something wrong that he did. And the order 8, the Rebbe says in the Geras HaKedesh in Tanya, that when you do something b'sheigik, it comes from his gabrus nefesh habahamis, because your nefesh habahamis is stronger. And we see that he needs a kapora. So we're talking about a Talmud that is not 100% the way it's supposed to be. Abel will give a Talmud talking to the boy, had he been a proper Talmud as it's supposed to be, such a stumbling block, such a problem would not come in his hands. It wouldn't happen to him. Und wie die Gemara sagt, die Gemara says in Makis, Rashi brings it in Parsha Mishpatim. So the Gemara says, if a heirig nefesh b'shgoga, that somebody kills somebody by mistake. So the Gemara quotes the posik, V'rishoyim yetzeresha, that it says from Rishoyim comes evil. So somebody kills somebody b'shgoga. So the Gemara brings the posik, which refers to him as a Rosha. So we see that the Talmud who did this is a Rosha. So what we're doing here is, because we do have to provide him all his needs, so we're going to, because of that, make someone else lose, and especially because of a Talmud like this, so he's not the way he's supposed to, so his Rebbe has to go to Golos for that reason. That's the problem that Rambam has. He's the Rambam, the Rambam adds, the Rambam adds that the life of people of Chochmah, and those that look for Chochmah, without Torah, is like death, like he's dead. That's something else. The inyan for Talmud Torah, Chochmah, this inyan of learning Torah, which is the Chochmah that the Rambam is talking about, by a Talmud, by a student who learns, is nicht nur vigor wichtig etzrochim shalei. It's not just that it's a need, a necessity. He has a very important necessity. Am soll sagen that we should be able to save you. Bald as sich früher Eisig given in Torah, das geworden sein Eisig. In other words, it's what we normally would be saying, because he learned Torah, that became his business, that became his occupation. Since that's his occupation, that's what he's involved in, and we have to give him all the things that he needs, that's all we have to give him Torah. If it would be only that, it wouldn't be good enough. Okay, we have to give him everything he needs, but not somebody else should lose. That's what the Rambam says. It's not that. It's not the pshat that he needs something very important, but he needs it. This is a question of life and death. And the Rambam says if he doesn't have it, it's like he's dead. And since the Torah says that you have to give him the that he should live, in talking Breda, so there's no choice. Even though it means somebody else loses, but there is no choice. We must send this Rebbe to Golos so he should have life. So the Rambam adds that this is not if he's dead. So if it wouldn't be dead, just he's missing something, even if it's important, you would say, so he's missing, good, you have to do whatever we can, but we can't make somebody else lose. But if it means that he will almost like killing him, then we have no choice, and that's why the Rebbe has to go to Golos. Where's the source that the Rambam has that the life of Bali Chochmeh without Torah is like death? It comes from a clear posik. There's a posik that's in Keheles that says, Chochmeh gives life to the Baaleh, to its masters. So here we see that that's life. Now, if it's life, that means without it, he doesn't have life. But maybe we understand why the Deniz that the Rebbe has to go to Golos. The Rebbe says, but we have a major question on the Rambam. So according to the Rambam, would come out that the din for Talmud Shigolo Maglin Rabbi Ime Yidafke be a Talmud is in the Darge was ein ganzer Chayim is Talmud Torah. This din would apply that his Rebbe has to go to Golos is only when the Talmud is a person that his whole life is Torah. So much so that if he doesn't learn, if he doesn't have Torah, he's like dead. So we're talking about such Talmud. Not everybody's in that Madrege. Aber die Halacha is doch stam Talmud Shigolo. The Halacha is that a Talmud goes to Golos, goes to exile to Oremiklot. The Gemara macht nicht gechilik. Und is nicht medagdig weg, wegen welcher Talmud das redet sich. The Gemara doesn't say what kind of Talmud we're talking about. The Gemara doesn't say that this din is only by a special Talmud that his whole life is Torah. Because according to what we said before, that the whole reason is because that's his life. But not everyone is in that level. So the din would have been true, would make sense. If it's a Talmud in that level, then we have to do it. But the Gemara doesn't say that. The Gemara says any Talmud that goes to Golos Tam, yeah, the Rebbe has to go. And not every Talmud is in that level that his life is stated. V'adarab, on the contrary. The din from Talmud Rabbi, the Gemara in continuation to this din. The Talmud that went to Golos, his Rebbe has to go to Golos too. The Gemara says, Mikan, from here we see, Talmud it teaches us that don't teach a Talmud that's not proper, is not the way he's supposed to be. Why? That his Aveda should not bring him because if he's a Talmud that's not Hogan, it might bring him that he will kill somebody b'shegeg, and he'll go to Golos. The Amarina Lakaman and the Gemara says later on in that Gemara Makis, that this idea that he should kill somebody b'shegeg is only by the Shoyim. So the Gemara says that don't teach a Talmud that's not Hogan, because then you'll have to go to Golos. That means, kumtuis as der Fall von Talmud Shegola redt sich gor beike wegen a Talmud shein Hogan. So it comes out that this din, the Talmud that went, is mainly a Talmud that's not a proper Talmud. Because the Gemara says from here we see that don't teach a Talmud that's not Hogan, because then you might have to go to Golos. Which means that when do you have to go to Golos if a Talmud is not Hogan? So it comes out from this Gemara that the main case of a Talmud that goes to Golos, that you have to send the Rebbe with him, is a Talmud that killed somebody b'shegeg, which is a Talmud shein Hogan. So Talmud shein Hogan means that he is not proper. Is wie nennt man rein as a Talmud in der Sug from Bale Chochma Maksher? So how do we include a Talmud like this, who's not a Talmud Hogan, not a proper Talmud? We put him into the category of Bale Chochma Maksher, that he's a person who's a Bali Chochma, and he's looking for Chochma. So much so that we say this is a person that without Torah is like dead. But we're talking about Dafka about it more by a Talmud Shein Hogan. And a Talmud Shein Hogan, obviously you can't say his life is Torah. Now l'chura, why not? When it says a Talmud that's not proper, means in his behavior, in his doing. As a 40 schlägt the boy, he behaves not the way you're supposed to. Aber sein Limud kann nefshe sein as in dem the boy. It could be learning years. We asked, Gemara seems to be saying a Talmud Shein Hogan, that a Talmud Hogan will not go to Golos, will not happen that he'll kill. It's only a Talmud Shein Hogan. But how could we call this Talmud a Baal Torah, that a Baal Chochmah? So the Rebbe says maybe Talmud Shein Hogan means he's not behaving properly, but in Torah he could be completely fine. But it's not true. The Rebbe says that we see clearly. Begashmi is Abishas has felt in that Anoge from Talmud felt the Seichen sein Anoge the Shkide belimud. If you have a Talmud that doesn't behave properly, he's probably missing also in his way of learning Torah. And Avade kann man nicht sagen by Azat Talmud Aklau. Certainly by such a Talmud that's not behaving properly, you can't give such a rule. Besides the farmer Galen and Rabbi, you give such a rule so much so that his Rebbe has to go to Golos as ein Talmud Torah geworden sein Leben, sein Chaim. A person who's not behaving properly, you could say that his learning became his life. If the learning is Torah is his life, then definitely he would not behave the way we're saying now that he's Ein Hagen. So if he's Ein Hagen, obviously he's not learning properly. And it seems like that the main Talmud that could go to Golos is somebody that's Ein Hagen. B'meila, he's not learning properly either. B'meila, how do we refer to him as Baal, that he's a Baal Chochmah? So the Kash is on the Rambam, that according to the Rambam, that the reason is because it's his life, as we said before, and we're saying that that's the case of the Din, that Talmud, because learning is his life, that's why Rebbe has to go, when really the Talmud that goes to Golos is a Talmud who's not behaving properly, as we said before, and B'meila, he can't be considered Baal Chochmah. So the Rebbe says like this: when the Rambam adds and gives a reason that because the life of Balei Chochmeh, Rambam says, is Torah, schreibt der Rakatchover in Atshuva vezeo tam ruchni. So the Rakatchover Taka writes that it's a spiritual time. It's not a very physical, not a real time, so to speak. It's a spiritual time. So that another time, but Posher doesn't din for Begal Rabbi. And he says a simple reason he gives why the Rebbe has to go with him. Because the question is, why would the Rebbe have to go? He did something wrong and the Rebbe has to suffer. So he gives a simple reason. What's his reason? The fun gufa with the Talmud is a heilig nefesh bishgoga. The fact that the Talmud killed somebody by b'shegig, which means is a raya that is a Talmud shein hogen. Is a raya that the Talmud is not a proper Talmud. As we said before, otherwise it wouldn't happen. The Baal Matonit lernen mit the Talmud shein hogen. Kommt to says who the Rabbi posha bezeh lo chodum meshubet. So if he's a Talmud shein hogen, how did the Rebbe take him as a Talmud? We said before that you should not teach a Talmud shein hogen. So the Rebbe did something wrong. The Rebbe having such a Talmud did something wrong. Oh, if the Rebbe did something wrong, so it's your fault. If you did something wrong, now you're obligated. So we put you into the position that you have to go to Golas too. So that's the reason he gives for this din that the Talmud Gola, the Rebbe goes to Golas too. Aber the Rebbe says, but this is not so simple. The Rakatchover's pshat is not simple. Number one says, besides, first of all, the reason itself is not so simple. Was the Perusha kommt zu, sagt der Din von Talmud Shigol und Megal Rabbi immer ist Dafke Nafal, wenn der Rav is nicht genogen. It comes out, according to Rakatchover, when is this Din that if the Talmud goes to Golas, the Rebbe has to go to Golas, is only when the Rav himself is not so good. That's what he said. The reason we make him go to Golas because he also deserves some punishment because he didn't do the right thing. Das heißt, it means, as erkennt, as Talmid is nicht genogen. When we say the Rabbi did something wrong, means the Rabbi recognized that the Talmud is no good. And nevertheless, he learned with him, which is against the din. He shouldn't teach him. But he can't say that it means he didn't recognize, he didn't realize that he's so Talmud, that he didn't do anything wrong. We're trying to show that the Rav goes to Golas because he also did something wrong. It means the Rav knew that he was a Talmud Shein Hagen. And nevertheless, he took. So the whole din is, it's a strange svara. The whole din of Talmud Shegola, he sent the Rabbi Imei, is if the Rabbi did something wrong. He recognized that he's Ein Hagen and he made not a mistake, he did something wrong and he was Pesheya. Pesheya means he was negligent and he took him as a Talmud. That's very hard to say that. That's the case of this din. More other questions on the pshat of the Rakatchover that this is not the place to go about it. But besides questioning the Rakatchover's pshat, is Eid V'Iker, the main problem with what the Rakatchover says is, the Fun Gufa was the Rambam bring them Tam Besifre Mishnah Torah, it's a sefer from Halachas. The fact that the Rambam does bring this reason. Rakatchover says the reason of the Rambam, because the life of a Bal Chochmah is Torah, and otherwise he's like dead, is a Tam Ruchni, he says. But nevertheless, the Rambam does bring it in a sefer. And what's the sefer? A sefer of halachas. Is muchrich to sagen, as like Chitas Rambam is der tam. I feel as there is a tam ruchni is a robber usgehalten ich al der halacha. So according to the Rambam, you must say that as much as the Shabbos it's a tam ruchni, but you could say that tam according to halacha. Voraya the Rambam brings it in his sefer halacha. Upshita as nit bestire to der halacha psuke ayeder Talmud Shegol is megal Rabbi Imei. And certainly it's not a contradiction to the clear halacha that any Talmud that goes to Golas, the Rebbe goes, has to go with him. And in halacha, this has to fit. And the question comes back that you can't say that Agashover is pshat. So we're saying what the Rambam says. And what the Rambam says is that because a Bal Chochmah, his life is Torah. But the question is, how could you say that this halacha is talking by a person whose life is Torah when we said before from the Gemara, it seems that this is, when did this happen only to a Talmud Shein Hagen? That he doesn't behave properly. So his Torah is also not. So how could you call him a Bal Chochmah? And if he's not called a Bal Chochmah, then this is not his life. Nevertheless, the Rambam does say it. So what's the pshat in the Rambam? The Shleimer Rabbi, the Rebbe says, you can explain this Bahagdem Dik Losh the Rambam by first being Medayik in the words of the Rambam. The Rambam uses the Loshon Bali Chochmah umevaksheho. People, Bali Chochmah means people of Chochmah. Mevaksheho, those that are looking for Chochmah. Late Talmud Torah, if they don't learn Torah, their life is not a life, and maybe they're like that. That's what the Rambam says. So the Rambam adds the words umevaksheho. Bali Chochmah those that are balim of chokhmah, people of chokhmah, and those that search for the chokhmah, looking for chokhmah. And we said the mokir of the Rambam is the posik chokhmah techaya baleh, that chokhmah gives life to its baal. In posik steht oblaze chokhmah techaya baleh. Chokhmah gives life to the baal, which is a baal chokhmah. And the Rambam is meisiv and vaksher. The Rambam adds not only a baal chokhmah, vaksher, and those that and the search it. This is the Rambam adds the word vaksher. It's not just an extra word. And why does the Rambam say it? Where does he get it from? Makes a whole change in pshat. Baalei chokhmah the pshat. When you refer to somebody as a baal chokhmah, means as a len teira in ha'ef na teirose de lehu. He learns teira. The teira becomes baal means an owner. You're the owner of the teira, the owner of the chokhmah. What do you mean you're owner of the teira? So the Gemara says in Dushan that if someone learns properly, the teira becomes his. You're called a baal chokhmah. So you learn teira so much that you're so much united and internalized in you. And vet bailim of the teira shaloman. The kras ashri, he becomes like the owner of the teira he learned, and it's called on his name. It's his teira. Und die Gemara sagt, dass es darf geben, wenn man lernt in der Eifen von Jäger, Leyuna, and the Gemara says, no, but that's only if you learn Horavet, you toil in Torah, you learn Le'iyun, you go deep into the Torah. So that's Taj Balach. So Balach Chochmah means somebody who's very much involved in learning Torah. Mevakshel is Mason. Now the Rambam adds that Balach Chochmah Umavakshel, someone is looking for it, that adds, as it is nicht mistapping. In simple pshat, we would think it means that it's not enough with the divrei Torah was gelernt und kein gewen. It's not enough the Torah that he learned and acquired. B'meila, he's the baal over that Torah. No, that is maksher. Sucht ständig noch. Maksher means that besides he has what he has, and he became internalized, and he became the owner, so to speak, of that Torah. In addition to that, he's looking for more. Movaksher, he looks for more Torah. So steigen hecher in Asagas HaTorah, try to grow higher in understanding Torah. For Asagas HaTorah in Vulnito, you could always, as the greatest Baal Chochem you are, you could always look for more, because Torah has no end. Like there's a posik, Arucha me'eretz midah, v'rchovim min yam. The Torah is greater than the measurement of the earth, and it's wider than the ocean, which an expression means Torah has no end. Bolosh na Rambam, like the Rambam says, ha'evid ma'ave, someone who serves Hashem from love, Eisek b'Torah learns, is involved in Torah. V'heileh b'nesivus ha'chochmah, he goes in the paths of chochmah, and so much he says, nafshek shura b'avas Hashem, his nefesh is tied with the love of Hashem. V'nimtza shoyge bo tomid. It means that he constantly learns it, means he constantly tries to understand more and more. So mavaksher means in addition, not only is he Baal chochmah, but he's even looking to learn more. Come to is late the Rambam is coming like according to the Rambam. Wenn passt zu sagen, that Talmud Torah Chochmah is geworden die ganze Chaim shel Adam. By the Rambam adding this word says like this, because Torah is the life of a Baal Chochmah, but not only a Baal Chochmah. When is the Torah the life of a Baal Chochmah? Only when there is nicht nur Baal Chochmah nor Reichem Vaksher. Vaksher means and. He's a Baal Chochmah, and in addition to that, he's looking for more. Then we say that the Torah is his complete life. Is not moving now. So now the question is even strong. As we said before, the question is, was der Moker Rambam or der Isofa welche steht nicht im Posik? So it's not only the Rambam is adding another word what the Posik doesn't say. He's adding another dimension. The Posik says that Baal Chochmah already Torah is his life, and the Rambam adds no. It's not enough to be a Baal Chochmah to be Torah your life. You also have to be a Baal Chochmah, and plus you're looking for more. Where does the Rambam get that? Noch mehr, the kasha is even more. Al pizevet nach starke de shaila nal siv beis. This by the Rambam adding that there has to also be a guy who's looking for more, makes the kasha that we asked in the beginning even stronger. What was the kasha? The Rambam, Tama Rambam is l'chura nit masim der alocha bepel. We asked the kasha. The Rambam says that the alocha is that any Talmud that goes to Golos, the Rebbe goes with it. The Rambam explains that it's only about Chochmah. So the question was, every Talmud that goes to Golos is about Chochmah? Now the question is even stronger. Apila and Alkum too is based on what we just said comes out. Akadei zu Machayiv sei Rabbi zu gehen in Golos zu lieb Talmidei, muss der Talmud haben nicht nur die Meile von Baal Chochmah, sondern die Tchune von Vaksher. According to the Rambam, when is this din that the Rabbi goes to Golos? Because otherwise his life is not life. According to the Rambam, when is his life not a life without Torah? If he is a Baal Chochmah plus Mavaksher. So as much as we had the problem before, that not everybody is a Baal Chochmah, and the Rambam, according to the Rambam, it's only if you're a Baal Chochmah. Now the kasha is even stronger. Even the Baal Chochmah is not enough. You have to be Mavaksher. And the kash is, how could we say that? How does the Rambam say that? B'shas as in Gemara state, at der Fall von Talmud Shegola is beikir by Talmud Shenogan. And the Gemara says that when is this din that the Talmud goes to Golas and Mameli as the Rebbe goes, is by a Talmud Shenogan. As we said before, by a Talmud Shenogan is the only time that the shaykh is that he should kill somebody b'shegeg. So from the Gemara it comes out that it's not dafke by a big tzaddik, a big Baal Chochmah. Not only that, it's mashma b'dafke, not dafke someone Einohagen. So how does it fit? We said before to Rambam saying it's only by a Baal Chochmah. Now we're kasha is even stronger. Now that we pointed out that the Rambam saying Baal Chochmah umavachsheh, it means it's not enough. Even a Baal Chochmah, the din will not apply. Only would apply to Baal Chochmah umavachsheh. And it's a steer to the din that every Talmud like that, and not only every Talmud, mainly by a Talmud that is not Hogan. That's what the Rebbe says. I think the pshat is different pshat than Rambam. Not the way we just said now, that the Rambam says, when is this person that the Rebbe goes with him, if he's a Baal Chochmah, and the same guy happened also to be, in addition to that, a Mevaksheh. The Rebbe said, must be different pshat. As kavonas Rambam with the Rebbe, he saw for Umevaksheh, when the Rambam adds the words, and the one that searches and looking for Chochmah, is nicht so meisiv at zweitend nai and darkest Talmud. Is not to add another condition, that this is only by a Talmud that has two things. He is a Baal Chochmah, and also he looks to more. Nor der Vov from Avaksher v'mokim tevas ei. That the Vov here doesn't mean and, but it means or. Kilo v'yevel geschrieben, as if the Rambam would have written Bali Chochmah ei Mavaksher, or a Baal Chochmah, or somebody who at least looking for Chochmah. And in the order 31 star, the Rebbe brings, it says that he brings the Manam Kemis, that we find in many places where it says, even in Psukim, where it says a Vov, which usually would mean and, something that means or. So the Rambam means or. That means like this. So what the Rambam is doing here is telling when is this din that without Torah, without life, is one of the two. Or if you're a Baal Chochmah, or if you're at least Mavaksheho. The Rambam is looking for it. Das heißt that the Rambam redt wegen zwei Sugim is talking about two categories. Number one, die welche seine Shein in the Darge von Baal Chochmah, some people who are already in the level of Baal Chochmah. Number two, even if you're not, Val Koponim Mavaksheho, as long as you're looking for it. Sie seien noch nicht geworden Baal Chochmah, even people who did not become Baal Chochmah already. Aber sie suchen zu werden Baal Chochmah. They're looking to become Baal Chochmah. Wie bald das Teir ist maftiach gegeiten mit so time. If someone is looking for something and he's working on it, the Torah says that if you're looking for it and you're going to work on it, you will get to it. Someone says, I worked and in learning and I got the learning, believe him, because that happens. Anybody who's looking to become a Baal Chochmah will definitely eventually become a Baal Chochmah. So every person who's looking for Chochmah, even though he's not, potentially he is already potential Baal Chochmah. So by a Baal Chochmah without Torah, it's like death. So this guy's potentially that level. So the bottom line, the Rebbe is going to explain it in details, but the bottom line what he's trying to say is that, and the Rebbe doesn't use these words, but I'm just saying to make it clearer before we continue, that the fact that he's a Talmud, we're talking about Talmud Shegola, the fact that he's a Talmud. So a Talmud means he's looking to learn. Already Torah becomes his life. It's not a Baal Chochmah yet, but the fact that he's a Talmud, he's potentially a Baal Chochmah, so already potentially Torah is his life. And Mela, that answered the question that we asked before. Could be a Talmud Shein Hagen. And we said mainly that comes out from the Gemara, the one that we're talking about, the Talmud Shein Hagen. How could you say that's his life? So that's what the Rambam has Mavaksheho. As long as somebody's looking, and how do you see he's looking for Chochmah? The fact is that he's a Talmud already. But this answers that the din that the Talmud that goes, his Rebbe has to go with him, is said concerning every Talmud, even a Talmud that's not Hogan, that's not a proper Talmud. From the Fun Gufa of the Rav was said is the Stama Rav Hogan. Because since the Rav, which the Rav normally is a proper Rav, the Rav took him in as a Talmud. Is Araya, the Rav had gesehen, akoponim gefühlt in dem Talmud as is in Geder from Akshem. When the Rav took him, proves that the Rav, the teacher, he saw, or at least felt, that he is a Mavakesh. He took him as a Talmud. He felt that this guy is searching for Torah. As sucht al kaponet zu werden Bal Chochmah. At least he's looking to become a Bal Chochmah. Weil anders wird er ihm nicht angenommen als Talmud. Otherwise, he wouldn't. We're talking. It's not like the Raketshover is saying that the Rav is no good. Like, yeah, the Rebbe said, Pashta, the Rav is good. And if the Rav took him as a Talmud, the Rav sees there's a potential in him. So if the Rav took him, that shows that this guy is looking for Torah. And looking for Torah, the Rambam says enough, because the Rambam says it could be or a Baal Chochmah, or at least somebody looking for Chochmah. The Father is the din of Megal Rabbi Meknetz Aruz bring him Talmud the minim nakech lapel, and that's why the din is that if the Talmud went to Golas, the Rav has to go with him to Golas, because we need that he should bring out from potential to actuality. As there's Overna Baal Chochmah bepel. We need this Talmud who has the potential of becoming a Baal Chochmah. He should actually become a Baal Chochmah durch Machen von dem Talmud Shein Hogen mit Talmud Hogen. And this is what we're saying, that the Rav took him as a Talmud, so the Rav has to continue in that way to turn him into a Baal Chochmah. He was a Talmud Shein Hogen, but he's looking for, so you have to take him to make him a Talmud Hogen, bis er soll werden a Baal Chochmah, till becomes a Baal Chochmah. So what's the reason why we make the Rav go to Golas? Because the Rav took him, so the Rav sees in him that he is a potential Baal Chochmah, so you have an obligation to take that potentiality and bring it out into actuality. So when you took him, you have that obligation to do it. And now the Rebbe says it goes even a deeper pshat. Is that you could add even more. The din for novid lemided to have a when it says that you have to do everything for this guy who goes to Golas, that he should have life, he should give him all his necessities for his life, is nicht nur benegeh der mesh der Regev and der Heilige Nefesh b'shgoga kumt in Golas. It doesn't mean b'chlal that the moment he comes to Golas, you have to give him all the things that he needs for life. Doesn't mean just that moment. What about a year later, 2 years later? You have to make sure that the whole time he will be there, which is Ad Meis HaKein HaGodel, which is till the Kein Godel dies, which could be many years. So when he posts the Golas, you have to make sure that all these years he will have all his needs. So it comes out that the fact that the Rabbi has to go to him is not only because now, till now we said because now he's a Mavakesh. The Rav saw that he's trying to become a Talmud, so he's looking for it. So the Rav sees the potential. But Mela, now we're telling you see the potential. So now you have obligation. But it's not only because of what's now, but it's not because only because of the situation now. Was Chochmah is ein Chaim Beleis Bekeach, that his life, Chochmah is his life, but it's only potential because still he's in a hog when you took him. You have to go there because you have to look what's going to be all these years. And if you teach him, he will become a Baal Chochmah B'Peil. So the obligation is on the Rav to make sure that that's what's going to happen to him. When we balder the Shenitzter in Gather from Vaksher, since he is now already in the category of searching for it, since he's a Talmud. Talmud could be Shein Hogn, but he became a Talmud. And the Rav saw that he wants to be a Talmud, so he's Mavaksher. Now, so for sure he will eventually become a Baal Chochmah if you teach him. Because the guy to Metzosa, Tamin, that means that he will become. And even more than that, now, when he was already a Talmud before, so he already started teaching him. And that's how it's going to go. He's going to continue teaching all these years when he is in Golas. So now you have an obligation, because now you have to care about not only what's now, but you have to care about what's going to be in the future time. And the future time, if you will teach him, you will actually make him a B'Peil into a Talmud Hogan, and you will make him into a Baal Chochmah. And that's why the Rav has to do it, because if he's your Talmud, you have the obligation to do it. And that explains the Rambam. So now the Rebbe says, "Eine von die Gor einfach Ahiros von the Minyan Anal" is one of the very simple lessons we take from what we said before. What we said before was that the fact that he is a Talmud of this Rav already makes him, we consider him a potential Baal Chochmah, and he will become a Baal Chochmah. So that Nakuda that we said before, that the fact that he is already looking for it, the Mela, there's an obligation on the Rav to teach him, and he will become a Baal Chochmah, has a very strong lesson. What is the lesson about? In how important it is to have a Rav. Seilach Rav says in Mishnah, make yourself a Rav. We know the Rebbe pushed always that every person has to have a Rav, Mashpia, whatever. It's very important. And here we see how important it is. Why? If a person makes a cheshbon, takes an account of his life, and seriously, truthfully, and he realizes that he is in a situation considered a Talmud Shein Hogm. He's a Talmud that's not proper. So the person could give up hope, and he could think, wie wird man können rauskommen von dem Matzev und sich übermachen in a Talmud Hogm. Person could think, how could I get out of this situation and turn myself into a Talmud Hogm, a proper Talmud? Und wer redt noch zu werden, about Chochmah, not only to become a good Talmud, but also to be certain, and how could certainly not come a Baal Chochmah? It becomes hard. And the person could think to himself, like them is the Eitzah Aselu Charav. Make yourself a Rav. Then Megefinta Rav Amiti. If you find, when you find a real Rav, is border the Rav in Kneln, if Semachen von ihm a Talmud Hogm. For sure, the Rav will work with you. Kneln is an Yiddish expression. When you work hard with somebody, with a student, he will work with you to make you into a Talmud Hogm. That's what we said before. The concept of the Rav having to go to Golas, because for sure he will make you into Talmud Hogm. And that's why the Rav goes to Golas. So here we see how important it is for the Talmud to find the Rav. As whatever your situation is now, as long as you're looking for becoming better, you're looking to become a good, a proper Talmud. Now, viel lebt der Weile ist noch in der Matzav Yorek gesehen, was fordert mit seinem Rav, Yeride, Vashpole, Beduk mit Minyan Golos. And even if in the meantime you're in a low level, such a low level that if you're going to get a Rav, the Rav will have to lower himself to a very low level to teach you. Like in the case here, where the Rav has to go to Golos to teach you. Paskam Teira says a psak, as Talmud Shigolo, Megal and Rabbi Yimeh, the Talmud goes to Golos, the Rav has to go to Golos. But Mela, Nesav as the Rabbit mit him Lenin. Besides the fact that the Rav is going to learn with him, that there's a Chaneinlegen, if Semachen von ihm a Talmud Hogm, he will put himself into making him a proper Talmud, bis to the Darge from Baal Chochmah, till he will eventually become a Baal Chochmah. Bis to when Kemese the Rav Mamish will become like the Rav. So this, the Rebbe doesn't say these words I'm going to say now. The Rebbe says that this is a lesson to the Talmud that you should know, never give up hope. If you are a Talmud, you get yourself a Rav, and the Rav will do it. I think there's a lesson here to the Rav. What the Rebbe is saying here is that the Rav has to know that he's not only supposed to teach him, he's supposed to work with him to make him into a Talmud Hogm and to make him into a Baal Chochmah till he becomes mamish like the Rav. This idea of what we said before, that if a Talmud goes to Golos, you send the Rav with him, you find in every individual person in his own personal Aveda. Yeah, the Yid is mit Neibishten bedugma kivyocha v'a Talmud im Rabbi. Every Yid is like a Talmud to a Rav, to a Rebbe. With the Posek, there's a Posek says, V'chol banayich limudei havaya, which means all your children are limudei havaya. What does it mean? All your children means all Yidden, every Yid is limudei havaya. Limudei, Rasha says, not Rashi, the Betzudas, the Meforshim say means are Talmidei Havaya. Every child of the Eibishter, which is every Yid, is a Talmud of the Eibishter. Yeah, there is a Talmud from the Eibishter. Und b'shas ha'yid tut chas v'sholom achet neged Hashem, is doch lefi shor. Any person who doesn't have Aveda against Hashem, for the moment, biz v'shover like till you do tshuva and things are changed and you get cured, but till then, a Talmud shein hogm. If you do an Aveda, you're called a Talmud of the Eibishter still, but you're a Talmud shein hogm. Obviously, you're Talmud shein hogm. When the Sibir of Shorish of Chet is, what makes it possible that you should do an Aveda B'chlal to become a Talmud shein hogm? Was it is nicht kein Baal Chochmah. The fact that you're not a Baal Chochmah. So in order for the one that says it means Kipshute. The Gemara says a person does not, person doesn't do an Aveda unless he gets a Ruach of stupidity, which means not smart, foolishness. So the reason why you could do an Aveda, because you're foolish. You're not a Baal Chochmah. That's in simple pshat. But the Rebbe goes, Al-Pichsidis here, what's the connection between the person being a Talmud shein hogm with the fact that he's not a Baal Chochmah? He's missing Chochmah. So the Rebbe says, a beer explanation is that the Rebbe is Mavayir in Tanya, the Rebbe says in Tanya, the Posik Anal, Chochmah Techayev Aleo, he quotes the Posik, Chochmah gives life to its owners. So the Rebbe says, the Chayes von Ayiden kum von Eibish. We know the Chayes of Yid comes from Hashem, from the Eibishter. And the Eibishter is Ein Sof Baruch Hu. He is the infinite one, Ein Sof Baruch Hu. And we connect it to Chochmah. So when the Pasuk says that you get your Chayes from Chochmah, it means from the Eibishter, but we connect it to Chochmah. Why is it Chochmah? Weil Ein Sof Baruch Hu mlubesh b'bechinas Chochmah shebenefesh Adam. Because it goes to Chassidus that the Ein Sof, the Eibishter, the way it's connected to a person in his nefesh, is specifically in the Chochmah of the nefesh. Yeh Misha Yeh Yisrael, any Yid, because we know every Yid has his neshama, all the madregas. One level of a Yid's neshama is called chokhmah, and the lakus that's there in the Yid through in the neshama starts off with chokhmah. Und der Chayes von Eibisch in Mispashet bechol b'chinas ha-nefesh kula lach yesod b'chinas ha-chokhmah. Then the Chayes of the Eibish goes into the whole body, but it goes through chokhmah. So it starts off with chokhmah. However, Chassidus explains it's not for here to explain it. It goes through chokhmah. So that's the Alter Rebbe says, ha-chokhmah te-chaye baleo. It's a lakus, ein sof baruch hu. Gives Chayes, but it goes through chokhmah. The far b'shas mis in gather from baalei chokhmah. So therefore, if a person is in the level of a baal chokhmah, which means he is the level that chokhmah is, he feels the chokhmah, fühlt man den Verbund, was man hat mit dem Eibishten. So then this person feels his connection to the Eibishter, which is mit ein Sof Baruch Hu, nefesh. He feels the connection to, because he's a baal chokhmah. And in chokhmah you have ein Sof Baruch Hu, you have the Eibishter. B'meile, he feels his connection to the Eibishter. B'meile is man nicht shayches a kaninje von chet. So if you have chokhmah and you feel the connection to the Eibishter, if you feel the connection to Chokhmah, which is a connection to the Eibishter, the male you don't do Averis. The Efshores of Chet nehmt sich davon, was is nicht about Chokhmah. The possibility of a person doing an Averis comes because he is not about Chokhmah. Und man fühlt nicht den Verbund mit Rabbi HaKadosh Baruch, and you don't feel the connection you have to your Rebbe, to your master, to your Balabos, which is the Eibishter. Because you feel it through the Chokhmah Shebanefesh. And if you're not about Chokhmah, you don't have it, so then you don't feel it. Shas mischete neged Hashem, hot man zu tun mit dem Geil Adam. So besides the fact that if you're not about Chokhmah, so you're able to do a chet, now you got a problem. He wants to connect this to the Miklot. By the Miklot, if you did an Aveire, in this case, you killed somebody, but in Ruchnis means you did an Aveire, because you're not about Chokhmah, you did an Aveire. So you have to, by a person who runs to Ori Miklot, has to run away from the Geil Adam. The Geil Adam is the next of kin who's able to kill him. In this case also, if you do an Aveire, there's a danger that you'll get hurt by the Geil Adam. Who's the Geil Adam? If you do a sin against Hashem, then you have to do with this Geil Adam with the Yetzer Hara. The Maimon Chazal, the Chachamim say, who's Sotan, who Yetzer Hara, who Malach HaMavis. He's the Sotan, he's the Yetzer Hara, and he's the Malach HaMavis. The Malach HaMavis is the one that could kill you, like the Geil Adam could kill you. Was will bringen a Yidin zu Amatze von Misa Ruchnis, Rachman al-Islam. The Adam in this case, the Yetzirah wants to bring the person, wants to kill him, but should kill him. Beruchnis, he wants to make him worse and worse and worse, that he should die Beruchnis. If them is the Alocha Brura in Teire, Talmud Shigolo Magal Rabbi Imei. So the Alocha is that the Talmud that goes to Golos, his Rebbe goes with him. Was Beruchnis meant us, what does it mean spiritually? Chodj the Ried is Bepeil Begolo Nitkin Bal Chochmah. We're talking about a person with a Talmud Shein Hagen. So he's definitely not a Bal Chochmah. Therefore, he was able to do an Aveda. Had he been a Baal Chochmah and had connection to his Chochmah, he was connected to the Eibish, he wouldn't do it. Nevertheless, it's Chas v'Sholem to sagen, that the Fari by him is battle geworden, the Verbund mit dem Eibish. To say that because he didn't have Chochmah, B'meili is not connected to the Eibish, Chas v'Sholem. As much as we said you lose your connection because you don't have the Chochmah, but to say that you completely lost your connection, Chas v'Sholem. For him, Yeder Yidiyah Mishiyah is Al Kaponim and Gather from Avakshel. Because every Yid, whoever he is, he's at least in looking to get close to the Eibishter. Wie der bewusste Wort für Rabbi Senyan is the famous word for the Rabbeim, written Ayem Yem, Ayid nicht will und nicht kann sein abgerissen Vergettlichkeit. Ayid is not, doesn't want, and is not able to be tear himself from God, away from godliness. But Mele is by him ständig voran his kashas mit Eibishter. So he's always connected. We said before, if he doesn't have the Chochmah, he loses that connection. As his Norva, der Verbund is by him behalten. The connection is there, it's just hidden. But like it says in Tanya, that connection is asleep. It's there. But even then, when it's asleep, it protects him from the Geil Adam, from the next of kin, from the Yetzer Hara. And the lost it will not allow, because he has the Eibishter within him, the Rabbi, which in this case is the Eibishter, is with him even if he's in the matzav when he doesn't feel, when he does not a Baal Chochmah, he doesn't feel a lakus, because it's still there. So we'll not allow him, Rachmon and Litzlan, to have the Misa Ruchnis. And where do we see that? So now Order 48, the Rebbe says, Shalochan kishabola den yisoyim b'devar amunan. Therefore, even these people are very low. But when it comes to a test, in amunah, in the real trust and believing in Hashem, in the Yerim Mishnoso, Tanya it says, it'll wake up. Upe'elis plus will pay. Ayid, who's a Kal Shebakal, the lowest one, who doesn't keep mitzvahs. If he's tested whether to worship Avodah Zarah, idols, he will give up his life. That means that the connection is there, just asleep, and some things wake it up. If a Yid starts off, shows that he has a desire, he's looking, he's mevaksha, he in an open way, he's not there yet, he's sitting not about chokhmah, but at least he's looking for it. But it's gleich peil sein Pelosif zu machen von ihm a Talmud Hogan der Bal Chokhmah. It'll right away peil to make him into a proper Talmud and to a Bal Chokhmah, was devil to Chokhmah Tachaya. So if he's looking to become a Bal Chokhmah, it makes that he is considered a Bal Chokhmah. And b'meila Chokhmah Tachaya, he gets chayis, he's not dead, he's not going to die beruchnius. Das bringt in him a rein a chayis von Kedusha b'chol keches nafshe, that brings in a life of Kedusha in all the attributes of his nefesh, but das is mavatal b'derech hamela, the shlita from Yitzhara, that automatically nullifies the control of the Yitzhara. So this is something that every individual person has to know. So before we spoke about Rabbi Menegei Rav and the Talmud Kipshuta, that the Talmud has to make a Rav and the Rav has to teach the Talmud. Now he says everyone in his own person, not another person a Rav. Here he considers Rav the Eibishter. So every is connected to the Eibishter. So if he goes to Golos, it means he's a person that's Eina Hogan. But you should remember, the Rabbi is with you, the Eibishter is with you, because you are his Talmud, the Eibishter's Talmud. So he's with you. And b'meil, if he's used, there's always the connection, and that connection will schlep you out, that you will not have miseruchnis. Like Shem vidas is by Yigei jeden yochid al derech zeh u'mekolishkin b'chulu is as b'negei Klal Yisrael. Just like we explained this concerning every individual, so too is it concerning Yidden as a whole, the whole Klal Yisrael. What is it? Shasigen gefinnen sich in Golos, befrat Golos achren. When Yidden are in Golos, especially in this last Golos, with prote is the cheshach kofel mchupel v'nikas and Mashiach, especially in the darkness of Golos, the double darkness of Golis in the time when it's right before Mashiach. A person could give up hope and think, where will I get help? It's so low, so bad. How could I get out of this? So the Torah says a clear halacha. Talmud shegola megalan Rabbi Yimei. Talmud is in Golis, we're in Golis. The Rabbi is with him. Who's the Rabbi? That's the din in halacha by a regular case. Like Abish that tells Yidden his laws, that means Mashahu Eiso Emer Yisrael laws. What Abish does, he tells us what to do. That means that any mitzvah that we have, he does too. Is B'meila moving that Abish the Rabbi gefindt sich kaviyachal and Golos zusammen mit Yidden Talmidei. So just like a halacha is that a regular Rav has to go to Golos with his Talmud, so the Eibishter has to do that too. So we are in Golos, and we're his Talmidim, and he's our Rav, so he also goes to Golos. We are Talmidim. The Chazal tell it, B'chol mokim shegolu Yisrael Shechina imam. Wherever the Yidden go to Golos, the Shechina is with us. So the Eibishter is with us. And this is a Loshen quote from Zohar, that the Eibishter is found amongst us in Golos. The Korya of Omar Shuva Bonim, and the Eibishter calls out to us, return, my children. And I will cure you. When you do tshuva, I will cure you. So David, we are in Gola, so it seems like we're in a low level, so we're Talmidim, that's not Hogan. David is with us, and since, just like the Rav we said before, turns the Talmud into Talmud Hogan, David does that. And with them gate narus from Golas, and with that we'll go out from Golas. Because David is with us. And Nochma the Rebbe says, what's up shot David is with us? Chazal zayin medayek, Begal and Rabbi Yimei, the Chazal say, you bring the Rav to Golos with him. Nit mevi and Rabbi Yimei. They could have said, if the Talmud goes to Golos, the Rav has to come with him. They bring the Rav with him. It says the Rav goes to Golos with him. But das meint, as bam Rav, das a matzav shem Golos. That the Rav also feels in Golos. He's in a matzav of Golos, which means, nit nor the Rav, there was a gefinyan in himself, mishtot mit sein Talmud. It doesn't mean that the Rav goes with his Talmud. It means Talmud went to Mikla, the Rav has to go along, and he has to be in the same city. But dort guf is every Abba Chayrim, but the Rav is not in Golos. The Rav is free. Any person who lives in Nori Miklot, not somebody who killed somebody. He lives in Nori Miklot. He could live in that city. It's a regular city. But he's free. So you would think the same thing, but the Rav goes with the Talmud. Talmud goes to Golos. So the Rav goes there. So the Rav has to be there, has to be available there. But the Rav is not in Golos. The Rav is free. But the Rebbe says, if that would be, it wouldn't be good enough. The Matzef Gezevet and it can mashpia sein b'shleimus in Talmud. If the Rav is like that, the Rav will not be able to influence the Talmud this way. You will not be able to give him life. Because between the Rav and the Talmud will be a great separation. They both could be in the same place, but the Talmud is in Golos and the Rav is free. Elamai is there to teach him. If you're separated, you're far from his situation, you don't really have a feeling for him, you will not be able to affect him. The Talmud is in Golos and the Rav is in Cheres. The Talmud is in Golos and the Rav is free, so you can't really affect him. But Meil is Visas Meglech, der Rav soll sich kennen reinlegen, beschleimus in dem Talmud's Matzev zu machen von ihm aber Chochme. So then, if that would be the truth, how could the Rav put himself completely into the situation and feel the Talmud situation to make the Talmud into Baal Chochmah? He couldn't do it. Es muss sein Megal in Rabbi, the Rav has to be in Golis with his Talmud. The Rav does gefunden demselben Matz of Golis with the Talmud gefunden. The Rav has to feel the same way as the Talmud. He has to be in his situation. And then Mela he could affect the Talmud. Al derech zebe de gehe kivyochel der Meibishter mit Eden. The same thing with the Eibishter and Eden. But Eden seinen in Golos, but Eden are in Golos is neise v'shchine yemoem is shchinte begoluse. Besides the fact the Eibishter is with us, the Loshen is the Shchine is in Golos. The Shchine is in Golos. Mishnamar, like it says, b'chol tzarosam leitzar. In all the sufferings that we have, he is suffering. It's not the pshat, he's with us. You could have one person suffers and somebody else is with him. Speaks to him. No, the Eibishter suffers. Says Zayin Tzorah Kivyochel. He feels this as his problem. Hashchine Shruyim Yisrael B'Tzoras Galusim. This is a Loshen Rashi in Nitzovim. That the Eibishter is with the Yidden, not in Golas, but in the Tzorah of the Golas. He feels, not only in the place of Golas, but he feels the Golas. But Mele, if a Yid knows that, therefore, Nitoka Nord Fayush, no one should give up hope. Adarabe, the contrary is Borer, Nit Kuken, to give a Matzavoyim and from Golas. In spite of the situation, the terrible situation of Golas, is Havaya Shemrecha, the Eibishter protects us. Havaya Tzilcha, the Eibishter is like our shadow. In other words, he goes along with us. And the pasuk continues, Al Yad Yimenecha, on the right, on your right hand. So the Rebbe teaches, why is Hashem Shemrecha? Why is Hashem Tzilcha? Because he's right next to you. The Mele, he's with you, like he said before. The main thing is, the Baal Shchinte Bigalusa. Since the Shchine is in Golos, is I feel it's at the Matzah for Niden, will given a Kasalka Taitach as the Golos, that Chat Shalom noch a bissel doyen. So therefore, even if from the Eden's perspective, could have been even a Havim in a Svara, a thought that the Golos should continue a little longer, is Lamani, Lamani, Lamani. It says twice, it's a posik. In Yeshaya, it says Lamani, Lamani, I'll do it for my own sake. And it says twice the word Lamani. That means the Reibush to bring the Gula to Libsich Kebiyachal. Since he's also in Golas, not only in the place of Golas, he's in the Golas. So for his sake, don't do it for us, do it for yourself. And the Pasuk says that the Reibush will do that. And you do it fast. He wouldn't hold it back even the blink of an eye. Nem der Reibush da Roi Zich und Bonner from Golas. The Reibush takes himself out and his children from Golas. Und führt sie und sie gehen zusammen. And he leads them, and he goes together with them in the Gula Hamitis Vashlema, Miyad Mamish, the Gula Hamitis Vashlema, and very, very soon, right away. And it should like happen very, very soon, and hopefully by Tisha B'Av will already be out of this Golas.